You know, I quit smoking like a while ago. I used to smoke 2 packs a day. Now I maybe burn through 1 pack a month, if that. But I felt like having a cigarette today. I had my first cigarette when, I guess I wasn't peer pressured into it, but I was curious. A buddy named, I think it was either Emma or Alex, it was one of those two. They were having cigarettes. We were all sitting in a car. I must have been, I don't know, 15 years old, so about 15 years ago. And I smoked for a while, smoked for a really long time. And those are some of my really good friends. I hung out with them. I'm still good friends with them today. I mean, even though we don't talk too much. We haven't spoken in a long time, but it didn't end on bad terms. We just kind of drifted apart. But if I saw them, it'd be good. And, you know, that's how friendship is. That's how friendship is. You find something in common, and whatever happens, happens. Well, I've had a lot of friend groups over the years, a lot of different qualities. Some I've played Dungeons and Dragons with, some I played video games with. Other friends we strictly rode bikes. Other friends, we strictly went out and drank. Sometimes we go through walks in the park. Sometimes we went to movies. All different groups of friends doing different things at different times of my life over the past, let's just say 15 years. Back to when that all started with cigarettes. Now, you got good friends, you got long-term friends, and you got fake friends. I haven't had a friend group or too many good friends. Found a lot of my friends were very manipulative. They only used me to get what they wanted, or as a means to an end, while being friendly and communicative in the process and growing as people in the process. If I had not been able to supply them somewhat transactionally, it would have never worked out, would have never happened. Of course, I kind of knew that. Kind of like in my last video where I was, well, not my last video, I think it was 2 videos before, I was walking in the woods. I talked about that a little bit. You pick the path, you pick your friends, and if you keep doing it, you can't really complain about what happens because you put yourself there. But I was always a little weird, I guess you could say. Growing up, people always thought I was weird, quirky. I was always just being myself, and if that's how they thought, then so be it. But I knew where I stood in the food chain, you know what I mean? I always understood. Now, I've had some people, ask me to hang out, hit me up. Other people didn't. It was usually me reaching out, whether leaving a voicemail or not getting a text message back, or just kind of being left in the dark the whole time. But nonetheless, those were the friends that I chose, and I grew and didn't grow with them. That's okay, because I still enjoyed my time for the most part with those friends, whether it was strictly transactional or not. I still had people to be around who I wanted to be around, who seemed like they wanted me around. Nowadays, I don't really have too many of any of that. I've realized when things are manipulative and transactional, and I've distanced myself from those people. When you take a look at your garden and You realize that you've been the one doing all of the watering while you've been wilting, and then you stop watering. They don't really care about getting that water anymore, you know? They'll find someone else to give them the water. And that's okay. Friendships should, water each other. You should water them while they water you. You can't keep pouring from your own cup if they're not pouring into yours. And I've always known that. I've always had water in my cup, whether it was from taking time back and getting it from somewhere else because I wasn't getting it from them, or I found water on my own to keep my cup full. I've always had a full cup, so to speak, for the most part. There's times where I ran myself dry, of course, we all have. But I like to keep a full cup. It's hard to make friends, good friends, quality friends you can rely on, you can depend on. You know, we're not all just collecting people to come to our wedding or our funeral. It's a journey, life's a journey. Now whether you spend that time on your own or you spend it with other people is up to you. I feel like, as humans, as social creatures, we all need a little bit of friendship in our lives every now and then. Someone to lean on, someone to talk to. Sometimes we need to spend that time with ourselves and talk to ourselves, or go out by the water, by the ocean, and figure it out on your own. Because sometimes other people don't know what you need. Sometimes you don't even know what you need until you take that time. And that's okay. It's just all a part of being human. It's a part of the great journey, part of the great circle of life. At the end of the day, we're all going to return to dust. Or maybe in this case, sand. Ran into a lot of people tonight who I used to be very, very much social with and friends with for 3 or 4 times a week for 4 to 6 months, or people who I've known for years who had a very similar situation as mine, and when we got out of those situations we no longer became friends because we didn't need someone else to help us through that journey. But at least we had someone to relate to. Me and them and me. Now I've grown and I've changed. And a lot of people still have those same friends that they met in high school 15 years ago, and they never stopped talking. They had gone through everything together. The best man at their wedding kind of deal. I don't have any of that. And that's okay. I think that maybe that's what I'm meant to be. Not necessarily a drifter, but people will come and go from my life, and they always have. And everyone likes me, for the most part. I have my enemies, a lot of people who don't like me. You can't be the hero in everybody's story, and I don't want to be. It's good to be different. It's good to, I'm not saying it's good to have enemies, but you can't you can't please everybody, and if you try to please everybody, then you're not going to have any friends, and it feels like at that point you only have enemies. But life is what you make it. The people who you choose to be in your life reflect who you are as a person. They say that you're most alike the most 10 people that you hang out with. Maybe it's even smaller than that. I've had my best friends who I hung out with 2 to 3 times a day for several years, and we've drifted apart recently. I've had my drinking buddies, my pool, billiards buddies, people I no longer talk to, or people who no longer care to talk to me. Yeah, making friends is hard. Especially when you're ever changing, or someone like me who's constantly finding the new nuances in life and appreciating it and applying it to life in general. I'm ever changing, like the universe and the world itself. The trees grow new leaves every season. The squirrels plant their nuts and their food in different places every season. You know, the lifespan of a butterfly is only a few weeks or something like that. And, you know, in terms of the universe, I guess that you could say we're all just butterflies. Some of us never make it past the caterpillar stage and don't evolve. I feel like I've been 100 different butterflies in the short time I've been here, but we're only here for a blink, you know. And I have the privilege of having said I've had so many friends. Oh, I know that guy. I know that girl. I've got stories with them. We've had a lot of good times. We've had a lot of bad times. And that's great. And I've come to the terms with, like I said, not having a very solid friend group. Because it's hard. But that's okay. And if you don't have too many friends either, well, it's very easy to try to fit in. Especially if you're like me, who has so many interests and hobbies, it's very easy to talk to anyone about anything. You know, you don't have to water yourself down. If people don't vibe with you on your level of being, whether it's the same level or changing level, then they're not meant to be in your life. At least not for a long time, even if it is for just a little time. But I guess I'm just saying, be grateful for the people who you have met, who have been in your life. It's all about being grateful. And practicing gratefulness is what makes us better human beings. I guess that's really all I have to say. Yeah. Much love. See you guys in the next video.